What the hell is this? Rebecca's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Board member Linda Foster looked confused as she turned to the CEO. Jennifer, the meeting starts in 5 minutes. Why is our janitor here? The CEO, Jennifer, moved to the head of the table with calm authority. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Maria Santos, Zenith Corporation's new Director of International Relations. The silence that followed was deafening. Are you having a breakdown? Rebecca's voice rose to near hysteria. This is our most important client, and you bring in the janitor? The janitor, Jennifer replied calmly, who speaks 7 languages fluently, holds an engineering degree, and has been quietly solving our international communication problems for 3 years. By the end of this story, you'll see how an 8-minute conversation turned a $50 million failure into the company's biggest success, and why sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone refuses to see. Before we start this story, if you believe one shouldn't look down on others because of their low-income job, click on the subscribe button and type yes in the comments. Only those who look down on others won't subscribe. 3 months earlier at 11:47 p.m., the fluorescent lights hummed over the empty corridors of Zenith Corporation. While the city slept, Maria Santos pushed her cleaning cart down the marble hallway, her weathered hands gripping the handle with quiet determination. At 45, Maria moved with the careful precision of a woman who understood that every detail mattered. Her dark hair, streaked with silver, was always neatly pulled back despite working the night shift. Her uniform, a simple blue polo and khakis, was spotless, pressed with the same attention she gave to everything else in her life. Maria had been invisible to most people at Zenith for 3 years. They saw the uniform, not the woman. They heard the accent, not the intelligence behind it. But Maria Santos carried stories in those gentle brown eyes, stories of dreams deferred but never abandoned. 15 years ago, she had arrived in America with an engineering degree from the University of El Salvador and hopes as vast as the country she'd left behind. Her diploma, carefully laminated and tucked in her wallet, had opened exactly 0 doors. No American experience, they said. Credentials are not recognized, they explained. So Maria did what survivors do. She adapted. She cleaned offices by night and studied by day, teaching herself language after language during her lunch breaks. Portuguese from Brazilian soap operas, Italian from cooking shows, Mandarin from online tutorials, whispering pronunciation guides while she mopped floors so no one would hear. But Maria wasn't cleaning floors just for herself. Every night, she came home to her small apartment where her daughter Sophia would be waiting, homework spread across their kitchen table. Sophia was studying engineering in college, the same field her mother had once pursued, the same dreams now carried forward by the next generation. "Mama, how was work?" Sophia would ask when she called from college, and Maria would always say, "Good, Mija. Focus on your studies." What she never told her was that she practiced German conjugations while scrubbing toilets, or that she'd been secretly helping Zenith's international employees with translation issues for 2 years. Small favors that no one ever noticed. Problems solved by the woman they never bothered to really see. The burden of supporting Sophia alone had fallen on Maria's shoulders 2 years ago when her husband died in a construction accident. The insurance settlement barely covered the funeral costs, leaving Maria as the sole provider for her brilliant daughter's education. Meanwhile, 8 floors above Maria's cleaning route, Jennifer Hayes sat in her corner office, shoulders heavy with the weight of expectations she'd never asked for. At 38, Jennifer had inherited Zenith Corporation the way some people inherit eye color. It was simply her destiny, whether she wanted it or not. Her father had built the company from nothing, and now the board expected Jennifer to expand it into something even greater. The pressure was suffocating. Every quarterly report felt like a judgment. Every failed deal felt like proof that she wasn't half the leader her father had been. "We need to crack the international market," she told herself every morning, staring at spreadsheets that showed promising domestic growth but embarrassing overseas failures. We're leaving millions on the table because we can't communicate with half the world. But Jennifer Hayes, like most people in positions of power, had tunnel vision. She saw solutions at her level: expensive consulting firms, high-priced translators, partnerships with international corporations. She never looked down the hall at the woman who was quietly becoming fluent in her seventh language. How could she? After all, janitors clean floors. They don't solve million-dollar problems. Or so she thought. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon that would haunt Rebecca Chen for months afterward. Rebecca, Zenith's vice president of business development, stood in the main lobby with Carlos Mendoza, a potential client from their Mexico City office. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect bun, her designer suit impeccably tailored, her confidence absolute. She was also butchering Spanish so badly that Carlos kept wincing. "Nosotros, grande with you," Rebecca said slowly, consulting her phone for translation help. Carlos smiled politely, but his confusion was obvious. Rebecca had just told him they wanted to make very big business with him, grammatically incorrect and culturally tone-deaf. Maria was replacing the lobby trash bags when she heard Rebecca continue. "Your company es muy, how do you say, importante for us. We want to hacer dinero together." Maria froze. She just told a respected businessman that they wanted to make money together. The kind of phrasing that sounded transactional and almost insulting in a formal Spanish business context. Carlos's smile faded slightly. Without thinking, Maria quietly approached. "Perdón, Señora Chen," she said softly. "Perhaps you meant to say, we would like to establish a mutually beneficial partnership," Maria said in Spanish. Rebecca whirled around, her face flushing red. The lobby suddenly felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice cutting through the marble space like a blade. "Did I ask for your input? I'm conducting a business meeting here, not running a Spanish class." Maria's hands tightened on the trash bag. "I apologize. I just thought." "You thought what? That I need help from the cleaning staff?" Rebecca's voice rose, and other employees in the lobby began to stare. "Your job is to empty trash and stay invisible, not to interrupt my conversations." Carlos looked uncomfortable, glancing between Rebecca and Maria. In his culture, dismissing someone so publicly was deeply offensive, regardless of their job title. Maria's dignity never wavered. She simply nodded, said, "Of course, my apology," and returned to her work. But the damage was done. Carlos excused himself 15 minutes later, and the Mexico City deal, worth $2.3 million, quietly disappeared from Zenith's pipeline. Can you believe she just humiliated her like that? Here was a woman trying to help save a deal, and her pride was more important than her company's success. What would you have done in Maria's position? Let me know in the comments, because this was just the beginning of Rebecca's mistakes. If you're new to our YouTube channel, please do well to smash the subscribe button and also like this video to get more videos like this. 2 weeks later, the Zenith Corporation boardroom buzzed with tension that you could cut with a knife. 12 executives sat around the mahogany table, quarterly reports spread before them like evidence in a trial. The numbers told a story that no one wanted to read. "Domestic growth is steady," announced Patricia Williams, the CFO, her voice carefully neutral. "But our international expansion..." She paused, looking directly at Jennifer Hayes. "We've lost 4 major deals in 3 months. Jennifer's jaw tightened. "Go on." "The German manufacturing contract fell through because of miscommunication about technical specifications. The Brazilian partnership collapsed when we accidentally insulted their CEO during contract negotiations. The Japanese deal..." Patricia sighed. "They said we showed profound disrespect for cultural protocols." Board member Thomas Richardson leaned forward, his gray eyebrows furrowed. "Jennifer, your father built this company on relationships, personal connections, trust. We're failing because we can't even talk to people properly." "We have translators," Jennifer said defensively. "We have Google Translate and Rebecca's college Spanish," shot back board member Linda Foster. "That's not the same thing." Rebecca shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "I've been taking classes. Taking classes? Richardson's voice rose. Rebecca, you just cost us the Mexico deal because you told Carlos Mendoza we wanted to make money with him. Do you understand how that sounded? The room fell silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. Jennifer felt the walls closing in. Every missed opportunity was a reminder that she wasn't her father. Every failed negotiation was proof that maybe she didn't deserve to be sitting in this chair. What do you propose? She asked quietly. Patricia slid a folder across the table. Henderson International Consulting. They specialize in cross-cultural business communication. Native speakers, cultural experts, the works. Jennifer opened the folder and nearly choked. $200,000 for translation services? For success, Richardson corrected. We're hemorrhaging money, Jennifer. The Chinese deal alone is worth $50 million. If we lose that? He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room knew that losing the Chinese contract would trigger a board review of Jennifer's leadership. How long do we have? Jennifer asked. Mr. Liu arrives next month for final negotiations, Patricia replied. One meeting. One chance. If we can't communicate effectively with him, if we can't show cultural understanding and respect, we lose everything. Jennifer stared at the consulting proposal, her mind racing. $200,000 they didn't really have, for a solution that felt like admitting defeat. Little did anyone in that boardroom know that 8 floors below them, Maria Santos was practicing Mandarin pronunciation while mopping their conference room, preparing for a conversation that would change all their lives. That same night, Maria sat in the harsh fluorescent lighting of Metropolitan General Hospital. But this time she wasn't there for herself. She was visiting Mrs. Rodriguez from her apartment building, whose daughter couldn't afford to stay with her mother during chemotherapy treatments. Maria had volunteered to sit with the elderly woman, just as she had done for so many neighbors over the years. It was her way of giving back, even when she had so little herself. Her phone buzzed. Sophia, Mama, I'm sorry to call so late, but... Her voice cracked slightly. The financial aid office called. There's been a mistake with my scholarship. I owe $12,000 for this semester, and if I can't pay by Friday... Maria closed her eyes. Her brilliant daughter, the first in their family to attend university, studying engineering, just like she had once upon a time in a country that felt like a different lifetime. Don't worry, Mija, she heard herself saying. We'll figure it out. But as she hung up the phone, Maria Santos, the woman who spoke 7 languages, who held an engineering degree, who solved problems that million-dollar consultants couldn't handle, felt the familiar weight of being the sole provider for her family's dreams. Maria walked to the vending machine, pulled out her phone, and began making calls. First to her sister Carmen in Rome. Carmen, ciao, come stai. Her Italian flowed naturally as she explained Sophia's situation. Then to her old university friend Klaus in Berlin. German rolled off her tongue as she discussed potential job opportunities. Finally to her former colleague Hiroshi in Tokyo. Japanese phrases filled the hospital corridor as Maria explored every option, every connection, every possibility. But Maria was about to make a decision that would force everyone to see her in a completely different light. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more of this. It was 11:23 p.m. on a Thursday night when destiny decided to intervene. Maria pushed her cleaning cart down the executive floor, or the wheels squeaking softly against the polished marble. Most nights, this floor was a graveyard of empty offices and abandoned coffee cups. But tonight, light spilled from Jennifer Hayes' corner office. Maria had learned to be invisible during her 3 years at Zenith. She moved quietly, efficiently, disturbing no one. But as she approached the executive suite, her phone rang. Hola, Carmen? She answered softly, switching to Italian as she always did when speaking with her sister in Rome. Maria spoke about Sophia's tuition issue in Italian, and Carmen's voice was filled with concern about Sophia's situation. Maria's response flowed in perfect Italian, her voice warm with affection. Through the glass walls of her office, Jennifer Hayes looked up from her spreadsheets. She'd been staring at international market projections for 3 hours, her head pounding from stress and caffeine. But something made her pause. Was that Italian? Perfect, fluent Italian coming from the hallway? Maria finished her call with Carmen and immediately dialed another number. This time, her voice shifted completely. Klaus, guten Abend. Maria's German was flawless, her pronunciation crisp and natural. Jennifer stood up slowly, moving toward her office door. The conversation continued in German for several minutes, Maria discussing engineering opportunities with the ease of a native speaker. But Maria wasn't done. Her third call transformed her again. Hiroshi-san, her Japanese was formal, respectful, culturally perfect. How do you do, my friend? She said flawlessly in Japanese. Jennifer's jaw dropped. This was the janitor? The quiet woman she'd passed in hallways for 3 years without really seeing? Speaking Japanese like she'd been born in Tokyo? Maria made 2 more calls, one in Portuguese to a contact in São Paulo, another in French to someone in Montreal. Each conversation revealed not just language fluency, but deep cultural understanding, professional vocabulary, and problem-solving skills that most of Zenith's executives couldn't match. When Maria finally hung up her last call, Jennifer was standing in her doorway completely stunned. For 3 years, Jennifer Hayes had been searching for international expertise. She'd hired consultants, attended conferences, and was about to spend $200,000 on translation services. And the solution had been emptying her trash can every single night. Jennifer spent the next 2 hours doing something she'd never done before. Really investigating the woman she'd been ignoring. She started with Zenith's HR files. Maria Santos, hired 3 years ago, references impeccable, never missed a day, never filed a complaint. But that was just the surface. Jennifer dug deeper. She checked Google, LinkedIn, and even the company's internal system, and saw her impeccable records. Jennifer sank into her chair, overwhelmed by the realization of what her company had been missing. Maria Santos wasn't just a janitor who happened to speak languages. She was a trained engineer, a cultural bridge builder, and a problem solver who had been quietly fixing their international relations disasters for years, all while being dismissed, ignored, and in Rebecca's case, publicly humiliated. Jennifer looked at her watch. 2:47 a.m. In less than 18 hours, she would have to face the board again with another report of international failures. But for the first time in months, Jennifer Hayes smiled. Because she just discovered that Zenith Corporation already employed the most valuable international business consultant in the city. They just hadn't bothered to notice. Friday morning arrived at Zenith Corporation like a freight train carrying bad news. Jennifer had barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities and plans. She'd rehearsed a dozen different conversations with Maria, each one sounding more desperate than the last. But at 8:15 a.m., her assistant Patricia burst into her office with panic written across her face. "Jennifer, we have a problem. Actually, we have a catastrophe." She handed her the phone, showing an email that had arrived at 3 a.m. "Mr. Liu moved up his visit. He's landing in 2 hours, and he wants to meet this morning instead of next week." Jennifer's stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "His New York meetings got canceled. He's only in the country for today, and he wants to finalize the deal now or move on to our competitors." The $50 million Chinese contract, their company's lifeline, had just become a ticking time bomb with a 2-hour fuse. "Where's our translator?" Jennifer asked, already knowing the answer would be bad. Jessica called in sick with food poisoning. "The backup translator is in Los Angeles at another client meeting." "The consulting firm you were considering? They need 48 hours minimum notice." Jennifer felt her career crashing down around her. In 2 hours, Mr. Liu would arrive expecting professional, culturally sensitive negotiations. Instead, he'd get Rebecca's broken Spanish applied to Chinese business customs. "Ma'am?" Patricia looked at her with growing concern. "What do we do?" Jennifer stared out her window at the city below, her mind racing. Somewhere in this building was Maria Santos, probably finishing her night shift, completely unaware that the company's future hung in the balance. "Patricia, I need you to find Maria Santos immediately. Maria? The janitor? Just find her, and tell Rebecca to delay Mr. Liu's arrival by any means necessary. Maria was collecting her cleaning supplies from the storage closet when Patricia found her, looking frazzled and confused. Maria? Miss Hayes needs to see you in her office immediately. Maria's heart sank. After 3 years of perfect attendance and no complaints, she assumed Rebecca had finally complained about her interference with her Spanish. She knocked softly on Jennifer's office door, still wearing her cleaning uniform, her hands slightly damp from morning floor work. Come in, Maria. Please, sit down. Maria remained standing, uncomfortable. In 3 years, she'd never been invited to sit in an executive office. Maria, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Here it comes, Maria thought. Determination. Last night, I overheard you speaking on the phone. Multiple conversations, multiple languages. Jennifer's voice was careful, measured. How many languages do you speak fluently? Maria blinked, confused. This wasn't the conversation she'd expected. Senora Hayes, I hope I wasn't too loud. I tried to be quiet. Maria, how many languages? 7, ma'am. 8 if you count English, but my accent. 7 languages. Jennifer repeated the words like she was testing their reality. Which 7? Maria shifted uncomfortably. Spanish is my native language. Portuguese, Italian, German, French, Mandarin, and Japanese. I've been studying Mandarin. Jennifer interrupted. You speak Mandarin Chinese? Si, senora. I mean, yes, ma'am. I've been practicing for 2 years. There are many Chinese families in my neighborhood, and I help their children with. Maria. Jennifer's voice was urgent now. I have a Chinese businessman arriving in 90 minutes for the most important meeting in our company's history. Our translator is sick, our backup is unavailable, and if this meeting fails, we lose a $50 million contract. Maria's eyes widened as the implications hit her. I need to ask you something that might sound crazy, Jennifer continued. Would you be willing to help us? To translate? To facilitate this meeting? Maria stared at her, speechless. Was this really happening? But Senora Hayes, you're just what? Just a janitor? Jennifer's voice was firm. Maria, I spent last night learning about you. Really learning. You have an engineering degree. You've published academic papers. You've been quietly solving our international communication problems for 2 years. Maria's hands trembled slightly. You know about that? I know about everything. The Mexico deal you saved after Rebecca's mistakes, the Italian supplier you helped, the German client you kept happy. Jennifer paused. I know about your husband's passing. I know about Sophia's tuition. Maria's professional composure finally cracked. Senora Hayes, I never meant to overstep. I just saw problems I could help with. And, Maria, you didn't overstep. We failed. We failed to see you, to value you, to recognize what you could contribute. Jennifer's voice was heavy with regret. But right now, I'm asking for your help. Will you save this company? Maria looked at this woman who had never really seen her before today, offering her a chance to step into the light after 3 years in the shadows. What exactly would you need me to do? Jennifer smiled for the first time in weeks. Help me turn the worst day of my career into the best day of our company's history. What happened next would shock everyone in that boardroom and prove that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone has been ignoring. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Don't forget to like and share this video. At exactly 10:30 a.m., the executive conference room at Zenith Corporation buzzed with nervous energy that felt like electricity before a storm. Rebecca paced near the windows, practicing broken Chinese phrases from her phone app. Ni hao, woman, something business. The board members sat rigidly around the mahogany table, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation. $50 million hung in the balance, and everyone knew it. Where is Hayes? Muttered Thomas Richardson, checking his Rolex for the 5th time. The conference room doors opened, and Jennifer entered with confident strides that surprised everyone. Behind her walked Maria Santos, still in her blue cleaning uniform, carrying a small notebook. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. "What the hell is this?" Rebecca's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Board member Linda Foster looked confused. "Jennifer, the meeting starts in 5 minutes. Why is maintenance here?" Jennifer moved to the head of the table with calm authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Maria Santos, Zenith Corporation's new Director of International Relations." The silence that followed was deafening. "Are you having a breakdown?" Rebecca's voice rose to near hysteria. "This is our most important client and you bring in the janitor?" "The janitor," Jennifer replied calmly, who speaks 7 languages fluently, holds an engineering degree, and has been quietly solving our international communication problems for 3 years. Patricia Williams, the CFO, looked skeptical. "Jennifer, this is not the time for experiments." The conference room doors opened again, and Mr. Liu entered with his 2 assistants. 68 years old, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, Liu carried himself with the dignity of someone accustomed to respect and deference. He surveyed the room, his experienced eyes taking in the tension, the nervous faces, and the woman in the cleaning uniform standing at the head of the table. Rebecca immediately stepped forward with a painful smile. "Mr. Liu, welcome to Zenith. We are so how to meet you." Mr. Liu's expression remained politely neutral, but Maria caught the slight wince at Rebecca's butchered pronunciation. Then Maria stepped forward, and everything changed. "Mr. Liu, welcome to Zenith Corporation," Maria said with perfect pronunciation and appropriate formality. "Was she Maria Santos?" Mr. Liu's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. This wasn't the broken Google-translated Chinese he'd expected. This was fluent, respectful Mandarin with proper cultural acknowledgement. "Lovely to meet you too," he said in Mandarin, his entire demeanor shifting. "Where did you learn to speak Chinese so well?" Maria responded in Mandarin, explaining her self-directed study and her deep respect for Chinese culture and business philosophy. But what stunned everyone in the room wasn't just the language. It was the transformation in Mr. Liu's face as someone finally spoke to him with cultural understanding and genuine respect. "Miss Hayes mentions partnership," Maria said to Liu in Mandarin. "But what she means is guanxi, the deep, respectful relationship that builds trust over generations, not just profitable quarters." Liu's eyes lit up. Finally, someone understood. Rebecca watched in growing horror as her role became completely irrelevant. Every comment she tried to make fell flat beside Maria's nuanced cultural expertise. "Maria," Liu said in Mandarin, his voice warm with approval, "you understand something that many American businesses miss. Success isn't just about contracts. It's about honor, respect, and keeping one's word across generations." Maria translated for the room, but added her own insight. "Mr. Liu is saying that he's less interested in our financial projections than our character as business partners." The contract was signed, but more than that, Liu offered Zenith something unprecedented, an exclusive partnership worth not $50 million, but potentially $300 million over 5 years. As Liu prepared to leave, he turned to Jennifer one final time. "Ms. Hayes, I have met with 17 American companies in the past 2 years. Only one employed someone who truly understood how to build bridges between our cultures. You are very fortunate to have Maria Santos." After Liu left, the boardroom fell into stunned silence. 12 executives stared at the woman in the cleaning uniform, who had just secured the largest deal in their company's history. Rebecca looked like she'd been slapped awake from a 3-year coma. And Jennifer Hayes finally understood what her father had always known, that the most valuable people in any organization are often the ones you never think to look for. Jennifer was the first to break the silence. "Maria," she said, her voice carrying a weight that everyone in the room could feel. "We need to talk." She gestured toward the chair at the head of the table. The same chair where company presidents had sat for 30 years. Maria hesitated, then slowly took the seat. "What you just did," Jennifer continued, "saved this company. But more than that, you showed us something we should have seen years ago." She pulled out a folder that she'd prepared that morning, her hands slightly trembling with anticipation. Maria Santos, I'm offering you the position of Director of International Relations, effective immediately. Your starting salary will be $120,000 annually, plus full medical benefits for your entire family, plus a signing bonus of $25,000. The words hung in the air like a spell that nobody wanted to break. Maria's composure, the quiet dignity she'd maintained through 3 years of being overlooked, finally cracked. Her hands began to shake. Her eyes filled with tears that she'd been holding back for months, maybe years. "Senora Hayes," she whispered, her voice breaking. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Jennifer replied softly. "Say yes, and help us become the company we should have been all along." Maria thought of the years since her husband's death, working night shifts to keep Sophia in school. She thought of Sophia, brilliant and determined, facing the possibility of dropping out of college. She thought of 15 years of being told her degrees weren't good enough, her experience wasn't recognized, her accent was too thick. "Yes," she said, and then louder, "Yes, I accept." The room erupted. Board members who had never spoken to Maria suddenly crowded around her, shaking her hand, welcoming her to the executive team. But Rebecca Chen remained seated, staring at the table, her face a mixture of shame and disbelief. Jennifer noticed her silence. "Rebecca, I expect you'll work closely with Maria to rebuild the relationships we've damaged through miscommunication." She looked up, her carefully constructed confidence completely shattered. "Jennifer, I owe Maria an apology, a huge apology." Maria turned to her with the same quiet grace she'd shown throughout her ordeal. "Rebecca, we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next." It was a kindness she didn't deserve, and everyone in the room knew it. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories of hidden potentials. And in the comments below, tell us about a time when someone surprised you with skills you never knew they had. Because everyone has a story. Everyone has talents. Everyone deserves to be seen.